I'll never forget the time that we received word that we were going to be separated from Philadelphia and be a new diocese. Ash Wednesday in February of 1961, we got a telephone call from Father Huseman, and he said, "Welcome to God's country, the Allentown Diocese." And I said, "Well, what's that mean?" I soon found out what it meant. It meant that we would never go back to Philadelphia, that we would be priests for the Allentown Diocese.
It was only a few short months. I arrived there in May, and the following Lent, we had a mission going on at St. Peter's, and I came down the stairs early one morning for Mass, to go over to say Mass, and the missionary met me at the bottom of the steps. And he said, "Well, congratulations." And I said, "For what?" He said, "Well, you're in a new diocese." "What?" said I. "What?" He said, "You're in a new diocese." I said, "What diocese?" He said, "You're in the Diocese of Allentown. The announcement came out this morning." And I was quite shocked, to say the least.
I first heard about it at St. Bernard's Rectory near midnight. I was the moderator, I guess the chaplain of the St. Bernard's Parish Bowling League. As a matter of fact, I was the founder of it. And I came in to the rectory, and my pastor, Father Andrew Lehigh, was there, all excited, and he cried out, "We've been divided." And I had no idea what he was talking about, and then he told me about the division of the Archdiocese of Philadelphia and the formation of the Diocese of Allentown.
And as time went on, we found out that we priests, wherever we were assigned, would be frozen, as it were, in the parlance of that day, north or south of the 38th parallel. Most of my classmates were in the Allentown Diocese, so we as a young class became immersed in the diocese from its inception, and we have grown with it.
It was a thrilling experience. Up here it was more country, many immigrants from all the different nations doing the ordinary things that keep this country going. So because my name was Ott in German, I was put in a German parish, because I remember the first thing they said, "Oh, we have a German priest." I said, "Gee, I didn't know that." I said, "I thought I was Irish, because I always sang Great and Glorious St. Patrick every year at March the 17th.
So for a young priest, it was affirming. It was neat to be with your fellow priests, old, middle-aged, and young. And we had a great time and a good spirit of the clergy among us as we were in the same vineyard with a common thread of a new diocese.
Historically speaking, the Catholic presence in the Diocese of Allentown begins with the Jesuit missionaries traveling north from Baltimore into Pennsylvania to seek out the Catholic settlers, and occasionally would encounter Native Americans, and it was not unusual for a large gathering to be celebrated outside. It was very important for the Jesuits to minister to the Native Americans. There are several Catholic families living in the vicinity, and then apparently the land became available, which Father Schneider acquired, and then the mission was established here by Father Schneider. The original chapel, which houses the graves of the early missionaries, still stands today. A number of the missionaries assigned here spent their lives here ministering to the community and are now buried beneath the chapel floor. Father Schneider's significant contribution is the Catholic school that he started. He had an academic background. We have it in the museum here. We have school books from the period. Some of the original school furnishings still exist today. It's arguably the oldest Catholic school in the 13 colonies and definitely the oldest one in Pennsylvania. Most Blessed Sacrament has continued to prosper, and we owe that to the efforts of the founding fathers. Father Bally was so respected and revered after his death, this small town in the valley of Gashahapen was named after him, Bally.
Allentown came into existence, and Bishop McShay was named its first ordinary, the Diocese of Allentown. He came to our diocese as a bishop, of course, that had training and served in Rome. He served at the Apostolic Delegation in Washington. Very experienced, very pastoral man because he had been a pastor. A wonderful person, and I truly think that he was the right man for the job at that particular time. Bishop McShay led this diocese. It was just wonderful.
Bishop McShay was really suited to the job that he had to do at the time he was given the position. Certainly a man of vision. He was administrator for the Archdiocese of Philadelphia. So he was well suited, and he knew the area because he had been born up here.
This car drove up in front of the rectory, and I see this priest get out of the car, and he looked vaguely familiar. It was the new bishop. And I said, "Can I do anything for you, Bishop?" And he said, "Yes, is the pastor home?" I said, "Yes, come on in, Bishop." And then the bishop informed us that he was going to live with us. So that was the great news then.
When Bishop McShay responded to the call of the beloved Pope John XXIII to become the founding bishop of this diocese, he could hardly have envisioned the marvelous growth, development, and vitality that we are privileged to witness and to celebrate here today. In his sermon of the day of establishment, Bishop McShay noted that the Allentown diocese begins its life with countless resources, having almost 250,000 Catholic souls. Your first bishop then asked the Catholics of the infant diocese to look beyond the solemnity of the ceremonies of establishment to the meaning of this birthday.
He had a wisdom, a sagacity that really was so precious and so powerful in the formation of the diocese and getting it off to a good start.
We were all united. It wasn't a question of scattered, you know, this parish doing this and that parish doing that. It was a united front. So as we often say, he was not the He was not the first one to lay the old aside, nor was he the first one to accept all the new. So he was wonderful in the way he led us.
He decided that we're all going to do everything together. Everybody would learn the liturgy together, every parish.
We learned later that St. Catherine of Siena was the church chosen to be the cathedral of the new Diocese of Allentown, and we were going to have the Pontifical Mass celebrated there in April of that year. So I knew Bishop McShay in the capacity of Bishop and Master of Ceremonies because of my role at the seminary. So when I came here, I was asked to be the Master of Ceremonies at that Pontifical Mass and to be next to him and be his personal secretary. So it was a nice assignment for me. And that's the way I knew Bishop McShay, mainly being the Master of Ceremonies through the altar. For that gala occasion there, even though our cathedral in Allentown is smaller than the Basilica in Philadelphia, nonetheless, we did have all the dignitaries there, and it was a wonderful Mass. There had to be, I don't know, there had to be hundreds of priests there. It was a very wonderful liturgy, solemn, festive, music and liturgy combined, just something that makes you very proud to be a part of. At the conclusion of this magnificent Mass with all its solemnity, we continued the festivities by going to a banquet that was in Ag Hall in Allentown on the fairgrounds, where hundreds of people, I think close to 800 people, were at that banquet that evening. And it continued into the night. So it was really festive. And for a young priest, that just to be a part of this, it was magnificent. It's just singular, very singular. I don't think it would ever be replicated again, in one's life. Every year when we were in the seminary, we went to St. Peter's Shrine in Philadelphia. That's where John Newman is buried. St. John Newman was the 4th bishop of Philadelphia. We went there every year to Blessed John Newman's shrine, praying for his canonization. And so it was a privilege to go to Rome to attend the canonization Mass when he was declared a saint.
Although the Diocese of Allentown was formed in 1961, the seed was implanted over 105 years earlier by Bishop John Newman, the 4th Bishop of Philadelphia. In May 1855, Bishop Newman introduces the idea of dividing the Diocese of Philadelphia. Bishop Newman proposed Pottsville, Pennsylvania, as the see, as the chair of this new diocese. It was easier to get to out of Philadelphia. Pottsville was a hub for transportation at the time, so centrally located and had means of transportation to the various parts of the new diocese. It had a vibrant population in the coal area, and more immigrants were coming in to work the coal mines. Being an immigrant himself, he had a very good ministry to the immigrants coming into the New World. And here again, we see in the coal regions where a majority of immigrants are coming to work in the coal mines in north central Pennsylvania. That area reminded him so much of his home in Bohemia, which is now the Czech Republic. And he enjoyed his visits to the mountain areas. He would feel more at home, more at ease, more well-equipped to work in the rural frontier area of this new diocese. So he was a great minister to all the immigrants that came to the New World. Newman's proposal startled everyone when he volunteered to take on the new diocese as its bishop, based in Pottsville. Pope Benedict XV in 1921, which opened the canonization process for St. John Newman. And I'll quote Pope Benedict when he said that Newman's offer to go to Pottsville was proof positive of his magnanimity of soul. It was proof, the beginning proof, to show that this servant of God was not thinking of himself, but thinking of the people of God who he was to minister to, and in this case, specifically the people of God in the Pottsville, Pennsylvania area. Newman's dream was realized more than a century later when 40 miles southeast of Pottsville, Pennsylvania, the Diocese of Allentown was established. Newman would have been pleased because he also ministered in this area, establishing churches and schools. So I firmly believe that St. John Newman, the fourth Bishop of Philadelphia, is still continuing to watch over the people of the Diocese of Allentown.
Father Walter Chisek, from his earliest days, felt drawn to follow the will of God, leading him from a boyhood that was somewhat troubled through some confusing years of preparation for the priesthood, ultimately to the Jesuit order. While a novice at Wernersville, Walter heard a letter read by the novice master, which had been sent by the Holy Father, Pius XI, inviting the Jesuit seminarians to consider volunteering for very difficult and dangerous service in communist Russia, very far from his hometown of Shenandoah. Walter, hearing the letter, felt it was addressed to him personally and was convinced that it was God calling him, and nothing could dissuade him to go to Russia. Go to Russia he did, volunteering for service in labor camps where he sought the opportunity to minister. Eventually he was discovered to be a priest, was arrested. He was sent to the labor camps of Siberia, where he labored under unbelievable hardships in mines and factories, the building of the cities of Siberia. Father Walter Chisek spent 23 years in Russia. Throughout all that period, his spirit was never broken. He remained convinced that he was where God wanted him to be. And finally, through an almost miraculous turn of events, he returned to the United States. The large numbers of people who came to Father Walter for spiritual direction, they recognized he was not simply very special, he was truly holy. When finally he left us, immediately and spontaneously, there was a movement to have Father Walter canonized as a saint of the Church.
Father Schneider, the founder of that school, the tremendous efforts that he put forth to give his students a good Christ-centered education in the halls of a Catholic school. And of course that tradition continued in the many sacrifices that the other pastors have made, not only in Valley but throughout the diocese in the years that followed. We've known the importance of reaching out to our youth. It's a very important apostolate that we have, because the youth will be the strong people of tomorrow, truly some born leaders among them, and a great promise for tomorrow. Our Spanish apostolate has increased tremendously throughout our diocese. So our bishops today have truly reached out and tried to capture the moment. The Spanish apostolate has extended throughout our diocese.
As we have seen large numbers of people come to us from far distant lands and nations, fleeing poverty and persecution and violence, seeking the compassion of Jesus Christ, and finding it here in the Diocese of Allentown.
No matter where he went, the Diocese of Allentown was the very best diocese in the United States. He was convinced of it, and he convinced everybody else of it.
In establishing the Diocese of Allentown, overcoming the traumatic experience of division from a diocese great and respected, we have now our own individual personality, individual not to stand alone from others, but to cooperate with them with the fullness of our reserve of strength. Thank you. Good night, and God bless you all.